Welcome to another deep dive. We're taking a look today at some really fascinating sources, distilling them down for you. And today it's all about boxing. A very recent, pretty action-packed weekend. We're looking at reports from July 26th and July 28th, 2025. Lots of fight cards, some really interesting post-fight stuff too.
Exactly. And our goal here, is to pull out the key results, sure, but also the surprising bits, the insights. We saw titles defended, new champs, some really compelling comebacks. We want to get beyond just what happened and look at the why and what might be next.
Yeah, we'll be drawing from places like SI.com, ringmagazine.com. We'll touch on the big ones. Claressa Shields versus Lonnie Daniels in Detroit. Also Xander Zayas against Jorge Garcia in New York. And across the pond, Ryan Garner fighting Reese Bellotti in the UK.
Right. Big names, big fights.
But, while those main events were important, there's this one story from an undercard fight, actually, in Detroit. It kind of jumped out at us. Features a familiar face making a return, and he was incredibly candid afterwards. Okay, let's unpack this one first. So we're talking about Tony Harrison, his fight against Edward Diaz. It was on the Shields-Daniels undercard in Detroit. Now, undercards, for anyone maybe less familiar, they're the fights before the main event, often where you see rising talent or, like here, comeback stories. And for Harrison, this fight was huge.
Oh, absolutely. Massive significance.
It was his first time back in the ring in over 2.5 years. Think about that layoff. And his first fight in his actual hometown, Detroit, in 11 years.
11 years. Wow.
Plus, first time fighting on the same card as Claressa Shields. He had some really nice things to say about her, actually. He said her presence makes his energy thrive.
That's cool. And he moved up in weight too, right? To middleweight.
Exactly. Moved up. Said he was relieved not to cut those extra 6 pounds. Called the whole thing a homecoming, a graduation, a wedding day. Just massive relief and excitement, you could tell.
And, well, the homecoming was a success. Harrison got the win over Edward Diaz. Unanimous decision. The scores were 98-91, 97-92, 96-93. That's according to ringmagazine.com. So a solid victory on Popper.
Definitely solid. But here's where it gets really interesting. Maybe the most talked about moment wasn't just the win itself. It was a knockdown in the 9th round. So how do we square that? A late knockdown when he seemed to be winning pretty clearly.
Yeah, it's a bit strange on the surface, but if you look at the CompuBox numbers, that's the system tracking every punch. Harrison actually outlanded Diaz by a huge margin. It was like 213 total punches landed for Harrison versus only 53 for Diaz.
Okay, so 213 to 53, that's dominant.
It is. It shows that despite that one moment in the 9th, Harrison was largely controlling the fight, outboxing him pretty much the whole way.
And after the fight, Harrison gave this interview, FightHype.com, I think it was, and he was just incredibly raw about it. He called the knockdown a flash. Said it wasn't a punch that really hurt him, more like he owed it for being undisciplined, losing his balance for a second.
Right. It's fascinating psychologically. He didn't see it as a failure, more like a correction. He said it brought me to life, made him a fighter again, even said it spiced things up for the fans.
Spiced things up, yeah.
It's like he used that moment, that brief lapse, as fuel. Turned a negative into a positive trigger almost instantly. Shows real mental strength, doesn't it?
It really does. And his confidence, despite the layoff, despite that knockdown, it seems sky high. He was saying his jab is still him amazing, his words, and the best jab in boxing. Said he couldn't miss with it.
And what did he feel he needed to work on then if the jab was working so well?
Defense. He mentioned locking in defensively, being defensively responsible. So tightening up that side of things.
Okay, that makes sense. A great jab sets everything up, controls the fight, but you still got to be aware defensively. You can't just rely on offense. Being defensively responsible means, keeping your guard right, moving your head, good footwork, anticipating counters even while you're throwing punches.
And his plan now sounds like he wants to stay busy.
Yeah, he explicitly said, the more fights I have, the harder it is for everybody to beat me. Wants to fight again before the year's out, or maybe October. And he's determined. Said he wants to bring another world title back to the city of Detroit.
He's definitely got personality. That description of himself as a slow starter, like a lawnmower that gets stronger.
Yeah, the lawnmower analogy. It paints a picture, Takes time to warm up, but then gets going. And his comment about Diaz being like a penguin with blubber when he was hitting the body.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Said the body shots weren't landing effectively because of it.
Gives you a sense of his style, his perspective. But beyond his own fight, Harrison also shared some thoughts on other big things in boxing. SI.com reported his take on the Crawford versus Canelo fight coming up in September.
Right, the big one. What's his prediction there?
Oh, he's all in on Crawford. Said Crawford till the day I die. Believes he can win, definitely. But he gave some advice, too. Warned Crawford not to chase what he called an idiotic knockout. Said he should focus on winning it round by round, strategically.
Interesting. Tactical advice there. And there's another really surprising insight from Harrison, wasn't there, about sparring?
Oh, yeah, this was fascinating. From another SI.com piece, the headline was something like, Gentleman Oleksandr Usyk was the best I ever sparred. Harrison talked about sparring Usyk way back when Usyk was still an unknown cruiserweight.
Right, before Usyk became the undisputed heavyweight champ we know now.
Exactly. And Harrison called him a magician. Said Usyk schooled me, but without even using much power, just pure skill. He said he couldn't even hit with a jab, called Usyk one of the best ever he'd sparred. And think about who Harrison has sparred, Cotto. Jermaine Taylor.
Wow. To call Usyk a magician and put him up there, even above names like Cotto and Taylor in terms of sparring difficulty,
Yeah,
that's huge praise. Really makes you think about Usyk's pure boxing ability.
it really does. But then you get this contrast, right? Because boxing legend Roy Jones Jr., he's recently claimed he would found a way to beat Usyk back in his own prime. Jones basically said no one was beating me in my prime. So how do you weigh those two things? Harrison's direct experience versus a legend's confidence about a hypothetical matchup.
Yeah, that's the classic boxing puzzle, isn't it? Comparing eras, comparing styles. You've got Harrison's firsthand account. I was in there, I felt it, he was a magician.
Yeah.
And then you've got the almost mythical status of a prime Roy Jones Jr., who, let's be honest, looked unbeatable for a long stretch.
Right. Untouchable.
So maybe the takeaway isn't about who's right. Maybe it's that both things contribute to how we understand greatness. You have the tangible skill Harrison felt, and the legendary aura Jones represents. Both are part of the story.
Well put. It shows greatness isn't just one thing. It's performance, legacy, perception, all mixed together.
Okay, so let's quickly circle back to some other results from that weekend, just to round things out. We mentioned the other main events briefly. Zayas in New York.
Yep, Xander Zayas, he picked up the vacant WBO super welterweight title against Jorge Garcia, looked very sharp, continued his rise, definitely one to watch.
And Garner versus Bellotti in the UK.
Ryan Garner got a decisive win there, too. Showed good ring IQ, seems ready for bigger challenges. Another solid performance.
And back to that Detroit undercard. Besides Harrison, there were some other significant results reported by ringmagazine.com.
Yeah, quite a bit of action. Samantha Worthington beat Victoire Pitot by majority decision. That was for the interim WBO junior welterweight title. Worthington stayed undefeated, mostly through pressure and just sheer work rate.
Okay. Any others stand out?
Carolyn Vera. She won the WBC silver featherweight title, beating Alicia Badersa by a pretty dominant unanimous decision. Showed great angles, footwork, very precise. Oh, and Price Taylor beat Robert Sims, unanimous decision, though apparently Taylor was showboating a bit when he might have had chances to stop him.
Oh, okay. Bit of flair there.
And a couple of others, Kamel Makol got a stoppage win, kept his 100% knockout ratio going. Sardia Simmons also got a win on that card.
Right, and just to tie it all up, the actual main events from the sources, Claressa Shields defended her undisputed heavyweight crown against Lonnie Daniels. No surprise there, really. And as you said, Zayas won his title, Garner won his fight. So a busy weekend all around. So when you boil it all down from this weekend, what's the big picture? It really feels like a snapshot of modern boxing, right? The high stakes, the comebacks, the personalities.
Absolutely. You see someone like Tony Harrison, a veteran, showing that strategic mind, that self-awareness about the knockdown, but also that fierce determination to get back to the top. His story kind of shows that a setback, like that knockdown, isn't always the end. Sometimes it's the jolt you need, to reignite things.
Yeah, definitely. And it also just highlights the depth of talent out there, not just in the main events, but all the way down the undercards. Seeing the effort it takes, fighting after long layoffs, changing weight classes, it's incredibly demanding.
And getting those candid insights from the fighters, like Harrison talking about Usyk sparring, or even the Penguin comment. That gives you a perspective you just don't get from the results sheet. It makes you think about all the different things that make a boxer great, beyond just wins and losses.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into that slice of the boxing world.
And maybe something to think about for you, the listener. Harrison's honesty about that knockdown. He owned the lapse, didn't make excuses, and said it woke him up. Maybe think about your own life. Where might a little flash knockdown, some unexpected setback or mistake actually be a chance to refocus, re-engage, and maybe come back even stronger?